Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to have the opportunity to be here. And one of the things, I guess I tie right in with what Dennis said to me, and he's Dennis to me. I don't know, maybe that's our background or whatever. But anyhow, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the authors. Granted, you know who I am. Ruel Becerra did a master's at North Carolina State with Eric, and he's now in vet school at Purdue and hopes to get involved with our researchers at Purdue in nutrition. Jane Leaks, the technician I've worked with for years. Kaylee Copeland was here last year. She did one of these projects, and she won the posters at Midwest last year. Not sure where she'll end up. She likes livestock. That's how you would describe her. Jordan is a DVM PhD student now at Kansas State. I think if you talk to the guys, they'd say one of the brightest and best they ever had. Kevin's our farm manager. David Scales is here in Indiana with the sheep industry in repro up there around Lebanon. Chris is our assistant farm manager, and Rob Stewart provided the product. What does it mean? It means the two studies I'm going to talk today are undergraduate research projects. This is what we have got to have the opportunity to have, I think, to become the people that you are sitting in these seats. When we talk about the NRC, and we looked at it, I think Hans would highly agree with me on this, there's a whole lot of really old data that we had to use to come up with what we think requirements, quote unquote, are for many, many nutrients. Among these, the vitamins I'm talking about today. Old data, the way they're genetically old compared to today, facilities and management, disease, feedstuffs, technologies. We were just talking last night about, pelleting. It was a whole different world then than now. We also know that there's new bioavailability information that's out there, very different. And by the way, just because you can measure it in the liver of something or in the blood doesn't mean it's bioavailable. I'm so tired of working on that, beating on that one. But anyhow, it's one we need to talk about. There's a lot of new products that are available out there. And we have discovered many new functions of what the vitamins do. So it is not, today's data, today's pigs, is not what we had to base this on. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time. You all are aware, probably the most important thing on the slide is the differences between the natural and the synthetic. And you're going to come back to me, and you're going to say, yeah, the difference is also called price. So there's a lot of things that we have to take in consideration in our dietary formulations. Let's see, which way am I doing here?
Either way. Just point to
Got
that.
it. Got it. Okay, the first study I want to talk about today has to do with the use of the injection of the vitamins in sows. This would be a lot of the work that both Ruel and Jordan did. We based that, our hypothesis that we based this on was the fact that we believe the sows requirement is probably not being met. There was some data out there that would suggest that maybe the role of vitamin E in antioxidants, the role of vitamin D in the elasticity in some of the muscles, perhaps would be involved. If we could reduce farrowing time, we would have less stillborn pigs. Ties right in with what Brian was talking about. We wanted to see if we could use the injection and we could improve the farrowing process as well as therefore helping the young pig get started. So that was our goal and the hypothesis that we were working on. We had about 15 females that we injected with a product that came from Stewart Products Vitally Repro. It has A, D, and E in it. And we had 41 females. These were gilts and sows. Research for sows at a university is tough because we don't have enough facilities, not like you all do commercially. And this same project has been done in some large commercial farms in North Carolina and gotten some results, some of them similar, some different than what we have gotten. But we use these, and these sows were our controls, obviously. We injected them with saline. The pigs were weighed within 6 to 24 hours after they were born, and then again at 5, 21, and 42 days of age. There are some sub-projects within this project, so that's why some of the days might seem kind of strange to some of you. We collected blood from 12 sows. They were the same sows that we collected prior to injection and then after farrowing. The pigs we collected from 35 pigs were 2 to 5 days of age. And then we had this subset of barrows that we followed. There were only 12. There were 6 for each sow. And they were bled 5, 25, and 45 days. We were trying to put some of what we were hoping to see in the pig with some of the laboratory, and it's good for the students, again, to have these kind of experiences, to learn to work in the lab. You'd be surprised how many of them have no experience because they don't do it in the laboratory courses that we used to have in the olden days, Dennis, where we had to take chemistry and biology. They do things very differently. Our lab analysis, the vitamin E's were sent off to where I think is the very best, the Iowa State Vet School. They do a great job in their vitamin analysis, and if you know of some other places, you might know why I'm saying others maybe are not as good. In our laboratories, we did the activity of some antioxidant enzymes, and in case you've forgotten your biochemistry, ceruloplasmin, there's more than one form of it. It changes when the pig is very young, but as it begins its first part of life, it has to have copper to function. The next one, superoxide dismutase, there are many variations. There are 2 different kinds, one that works within the cell and one that works within the nucleus, depending on what kind of cells we're talking about. The one we measured was a copper zinc SOD. The other one is a manganese requiring. The last one we did was glutathione peroxidase, as you know, is selenium requiring. And the thing about glutathione peroxidase is there are a whole lot of forms. There's a whole lot of new information about it since the days when we finally discovered why we should be allowed to add selenium to diets in swine. This is the data that we were looking for with that first hypothesis. Could we make a difference in how those pigs were delivered and hence have fewer stillborns or fewer pigs that died? And if you will look at this data, the sows that were saline treated or they were vitamin injected. If we look at the number of offspring, similar. A number of cysts during farrowing. The young man that did this work, I'm not kidding you, he lived out there at the farm. He did. He literally lived out there. Every pig that was born had a number on its back for when it was in the birth order and how much time there was between every pig. Undergraduate. Unreal. Farrowing duration for the sow in minutes. The farrowing time per pig obviously calculated. Live births for litter. Nothing there. In our study, there was nothing. In 2 of the commercial farms in North Carolina, they have seen an improvement. Now, they don't keep the same kind of data. Their answer, of course, is at the end, the number of pigs and that they haul out in the bucket and the number of pigs that are nursing. When we look at the use of the saline injection of the sows, and we're looking at growth performance, we thought this was really interesting. Average daily gain, there was a significant improvement in the pigs whose mother had received the vitamin injection. Granted, it's a small study. You know, I'm not telling you that we're going to cure the world with this. Average daily feed intake was improved also by the vitamin injection for the sow, and hence gain to feed was fairly similar. So we were really enthralled by that and very interested, and that maybe is what kept us going in this track of looking at the A, D, and E. When we looked at the vitamins and their association with these antioxidant enzymes, you know, I have a real, I'll give you my strong thing, and we'll see it as we go here, but just because we can measure something doesn't mean it has a role. And it doesn't mean we understand what the role is. Looking at things on a very molecular basis is really important. But I caution us to think about knowing in the situation that the animal is in, whether it's really of value to the animal or not. And there's some questions that you're going to see here that I hope you'll think about. I mentioned to you that ceruloplasmin is a copper requiring. We're not doing anything with copper, right? Whatever mama had, she had to pass on. If we look here at the vitamin injection, which are the squares, and if we look at the diamonds, which are the controls, there is a time difference, there is no treatment difference, and no interaction. And we would not be at all we expected to see some change here. If you look at, my gosh, the number of years we've done, maybe, I hate to say how long, where we've looked at ceruloplasmin, we know there are these variables, and we know it's because there are different forms of ceruloplasmin that are made by the young pig. Sometimes, though, that makes a difference in a research trial, and we suddenly think we have a result. But it has nothing to do, it has more to do with the pig's genetics than it does with what we're doing treatment-wise. This is looking at superoxide dismutase. Again, I reminded you this is the copper and zinc form. We use the same as we did before. There is a time effect, and you can certainly see that. And there is no treatment. There is a treatment suggesting, but whatever. It is a small study, and a treatment by time effect. Again, it's very interesting because we might suggest that the animal was needing, or for whatever reason was able, could be able to make more of the SOD. Whoops, I think we did 2 there. This is glutathione peroxidase. Again, if we look at the controls here are the diamonds, and the vitamin injection are the squares. At the end of 45 days, which would be the weaning period, you can see that there is close suggesting a treatment effect. There is, again, a time effect and a treatment by time effect. Kind of interesting because, again, vitamin E has a very close relationship with selenium, and mostly because they do different jobs to help each other, not that they can replace each other. But a lot of people would find this, I think, fascinating to see what was going on at 45 days when those pigs were obviously eating very well. Oh, speaking of it, I didn't show you any data at all on that because there is nothing that looks any different. Average daily gain and everything is very similar on these pigs when we use the whole group. The vitamin, when we looked at the vitamin E's, you can see from here from day 5 to day 45, this is what they got from mama, plus then whatever they got in the feed. And at this point, you can see that we obviously, I think this is of interest here, is that the pig does show the vitamin E that they got from the mother. And our conclusion might be that there might be a benefit in the antioxidant. I think it would have to go a lot further than this research has gone, and that there might be a performance benefit. The negative thing, everybody in this room that works in a commercial industry will say to me, Hill, how many times do you think we're going to get by and be able to do giving those Sows shots we're already doing, right? So that was part of our impetus of why we wanted to do the second study. In the second study, we wanted to work with the nursery pigs, and one of the things we know, all of us, we've heard this 1,000 times about this, the need, the stress, all the problems that go on when that young pig is weaned. And we know that. We also know that from what we saw with our work with the sow, we wanted to see if we could get some similar benefits without giving the sow the injection. And particularly looking down the road of what there might be improvements for this young pig. Our methods, we had 150 pigs. We had the 2 treatments. We had the again, Stuart provided to us the Emulsol E and D3 liquid that we could put in the water, and then the other pigs just received water. We did keep water records. Great, this was Kaylee Copeland's work, and a great job of every day monitoring water. You have to do it to see if you're, number one, if they're consuming, and number 2, if you've got a problem with the fact that the system isn't working. And she did a great job, and we can show the stats on that to show that there was consumption that was very similar. The pigs were weighed at 35, of course they were weighed when they went on trial, 35, 44, and 55 days of age. We collected blood from 12 pigs at 55 days of age. Our laboratory determinations, as you might expect, were similar to the previous study. We did ceruloplasmin, the superoxide dismutase, copper and zinc, the glutathione peroxidase. This time we looked at vitamins E and D3. If you noticed in the product we used, it had E and D3 in it. It did not have A in it. And the reason it did not, there is some data suggest that the A actually has a negative effect, and we wanted to see if we could get a positive effect, and this product was a product that we could purchase, or in this case was given to us, that we could use. If you take a look at this data, this is a huge data slide. I have to apologize because it's amazing how much stuff we can get on one. But anyhow, the one treatment would have been our control, the water. This is the one with the D3 and the E that's added. When you looked at the red blood cell superoxide dismutase activity, not the protein, but the activity itself, we found that we have a significant difference. When we looked at glutathione, peroxidase, SOD, then glutathione peroxidase, again, a significant difference. When we looked at ceruloplasmin, again, which we might have expected to be different, and it was. And I say that to you because I think the role of ceruloplasmin is one of those, it's copper, Hans. It's copper. We don't know anything about copper. And I think this is a perfect example of where we see some activity related to antioxidants, but we don't see it in ceruloplasmin. And what is interesting here is that if you'll notice, it's the SOD is higher in the water treatment, it's higher in the glutathione peroxidase water treatment, both of these. And you're saying to me, well, if it is higher when you're not getting the product, what does that mean? And I told you it's confusing, and I think it's something we need to think about. It may be, and it's something we need to talk about, but it may be that when they don't have these extra antioxidants provided to them, that they have to go and they have to make more of the enzymes. If you look at antioxidants, I mean, it's a big picture. Oxidant stress is a big picture. So we thought that was really interesting. We looked at our plasma vitamin E, certainly a significant difference. The animals who received the product in their water had more. They also had more, significantly more D3. I told you we did not give vitamin A this time to the animals, but we measured it as a control to see that, you know, kind of what was going on. And sure enough, they were not significantly different. So I think this shows you that well, maybe I should show you the slide that says that, that we can conclude that the nursery pigs can utilize, they can get in, and that they're still a viable source of the vitamins for these pigs. That had been a question. Some people wondered whether they would drink enough, whether the pig would actually be able to put it into circulation. And obviously, storage is an important part of this. We did not kill pigs. We did not measure storage. We know that it may be involved in the fact that it may reduce the need for the pig to make additional antioxidants. Or you can look at it another way. If you had a disease challenge, and these pigs in a typical university herd are fairly clean in terms of health, but it might be that if you gave them that disease challenge, that they would have the ability to make a greater amount of the antioxidant nutrients. And you know, one of the things that we need to be doing more, we need to look more, fairly basic, but not terribly basic, research with some of these disease challenges. I showed you that first part where there was the concern about whether we could help that sow have fewer stillborns if we gave her the injections of the vitamins. Well, those gilts and sows had all been exposed to PED. What other diseases are commercially important? And that's maybe why we see some of the differences when we use some of these products in a commercial setting that we do not see in a university herd that is relatively clean. Thank you. I'll take questions if you have any.